Hello and welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and give you confidence to understand what people around you are really saying to you in real life. And this is a bonus edition looking at your questions, comments, and observations. Thank you so much for all the comments on each episode. And I thought some of the comments were so insightful or interesting that they are worth dealing with here. We're going to look at the Robert Wone 911 call. We're going to look at the disappearance of Samantha Murphy, Joslin Smith's disappearance as well, and also Madeleine McCann. But we're going to start with Ian Bailey and Sophie Toscan du Plantier, and some comments on the episodes around that. Isabel says, the man Ian is not guilty. The law says it. Well, Isabel, the law does say not guilty. Actually, the law says never charged. But that doesn't mean in real life he didn't do it. You know, the law is one thing. Facts and truth are another thing. And when people talk, they're not talking about the law. They're talking about facts and the truth. Sometimes people may talk about the law as a sort of get out. I'm not guilty, i.e., I haven't been found guilty in a court of law, but that's a very different thing from saying, I did not do this. But thank you for your comment, Isabel. Ellie says, I still can't let go of the Sophie case, and despite knowing that her murderer was Ian Bailey, I want to know more about how it came about and things we can't know, such as where their spirits are now. Obviously, there's no way of knowing using statement analysis, and I don't know how we, armchair detectives, can solve the murder mystery properly. Great insight there, Ellie, and you're dead right. Statement analysis can only take us so far, and it can only give us more questions to ask or observations to make about the words that someone uses. I guess the best hope is that the police uncover evidence that helps work out who murdered Sophie Toscan du Plantier. Thosco asks, as regards Marie Farrell, why would she risk her own marriage and family life to make a false statement about seeing Ian Bailey in Kofada Bridge the night of the murder, then retract it after almost 10 years later? A GSOC report found no evidence of her being coerced into making a statement to link Mr. Bailey to the murder. The first part of the question, you'd have to ask Marie Farrell why she has behaved as she is. I've delved deep into Marie Farrell's words, and if you listen to the Words of West Cork podcast, which is on the Never a Truer Word podcast feed, you'll hear an episode that looks almost entirely at Marie Farrell's words. I have to say, because she lied so often, I discounted just about everything Marie had to say, bar the fact I did think the most honest-looking sets of words that she used were when she was talking about being put under pressure by the police to make false statements. I believed that happened. So thank you very much for your comment. The 911 call about the death of Robert Wone got some interesting comments. Gemma says, I've never heard of this case before. Gemma, neither had I, and that's one of those things that makes it really interesting. And she hadn't looked it up either. I have looked it up and read about it since doing the analysis. If he thought there was an intruder in the house who killed his friend, whom could possibly still be around or return, which is very much what the caller said inside the call, surely him and his partner would be frantic in asking for the police as well. Yes, I agree with that. I did not feel like they truly, honestly thought that an intruder had been in the house and was still in the house. His friend is dying, dead, and he's not in the room to observe to keep the operator up to date. And why would his partner, want to be in separate rooms in this situation? I agree as well. He did say, I didn't believe it, but he did say he was scared. He thought there was an intruder possibly still in the house with one of the knives. And yet they split up and he went upstairs to call 911. That didn't ring true to me. Surely it would be a good idea to stick together. He sounds upset and possibly worried. Yes, I agree, and you would be if there was someone stabbed and dying in your house. But the whole call so far is really vague and lacking in details, as you mentioned. I think that's one of the things that I really did notice. And a comment on Twitter saying, I'm sure you know, but there were 3 people in the house. Yes, once I'd done the analysis, I went and read up on the Robert Wone story, and there was someone else in the house. So the call was made by one man. He mentioned his partner who was with the stabbed Robert Wone at the time, but he did not ever mention the 3rd or 4th, I guess, person inside the house on the call at all. And that really got me wondering, why not mention that person? Is it that it's an omission that they're hiding that person, that pretending that person is not there? Or is there something a little bit more sinister going on? We don't know, but we can ask the question, why is that other person in the house not mentioned? The comment goes on to say, and I think this is great for anyone that's interested in the story, if you can access the Peacock docuseries Who Killed Robert Wone, I think you'd love it. I can't. We don't get Peacock in this country, I'm afraid. There's more great language these guys use that the prosecutor points out. I will hopefully at some point see a version of that. Thank you very much for your comment. On the episode featuring Missing Nicole Baldwin, which looked at Nicole's daughter and also someone who seemed to have inserted themselves into the search for Nicole and had their house raided by the police. That woman was called Terry, and a couple of comments about Terry came through. Terry is crazy and selfish, and trust me, she knows way more than being offered up, and I felt that Terry was hiding some things in her words. She became attached and obsessed with this case and Nicole. She interjected herself through multiple things, and to be honest, it's not normal what she does. Another comment. That's the most on-point comment I've seen that it's talking about the previous comment. Terry Rogers is not a good person that started looking for Nicole out of the kindness of her heart. She wanted to catch a murderer and write a book about it. Terry has blocked every family of Nicole's to keep that narrative and that she was the only one helping find Nicole. That couldn't be further from the truth. There's a reason they served a search warrant on her home. Terry Rogers can lie through her teeth on the matter, but the truth always comes out in the end. Thank you for your comments. Terry's not here to defend herself. If Terry wants to talk, I'd love to get a statement from Terry about what happened. But thank you very much for your comments. Very interesting. I felt there was more going on with Terry than she was saying in her statements. We looked at allegations against Christian B., the so-called prime suspect in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. And Marie said, great video and analysis as usual. Good point about looking at edits in videos. It's something that could change things said. Really, really good point, Marie. I always try, if I can, when I'm doing analysis, to go back to the very source. And I love that to be a video or a piece of audio where you actually hear the person talk, because the more that's transcribed and maybe put into words by journalists, the more that it changes. And it would not be the first time I've looked at some words that have been written down in maybe a press article or a website article and gone and found the source and found that actually what is said is quite different from just the bits that are quoted in the article. So it's always good to go back as far as you can to the actual source to hear the person saying the words themselves. And yes, with edits, always be aware. In fact, there's some statements I refuse to analyse because they come from TV that's you can see it has been heavily edited, so you're not getting the full context of what someone's saying, and it's really unfair to analyse them and ask any questions or come to any conclusions when you're not seeing the full statement that someone has given. Gray says, this whole Christian B angle seems like a reach, not a scrap of solid evidence to support it. I agree, Gray. I haven't looked into it in great detail, but everything I've seen around Christian B is a friend of a friend saying something happened, and that is not the same thing as something happened. It's not even anyone observing that anything actually happened. The Christian B angle does seem like a reach. We looked at the disappearance of Samantha Murphy and the press conference given by Samantha's husband and Samantha's daughter. And Johanna says, I'm sure you're aware by now that Samantha Murphy's alleged murderer has been arrested and charged. I think this video is really unfair to Mick, that's the husband, and if you had any respect for the Murphy family, you would take it down. Now, Johanna, I was very fair to Mick, and I'm not entirely sure you watched the entire video, because at the end, when I came to conclusions, I said they don't know where Samantha is. They are absolutely clueless around what has happened to her, about where she is and what her fate is. I absolutely said that out loud and very clearly. I said I didn't see any signs of guilty knowledge, that they were badly involved in what happened. I said they were hiding some things from us around maybe pressure before she went missing, and around maybe some rifts in the family before she went missing. I noted Mick's nervousness at talking as well and took that into account, especially his nervousness around talking about his missing wife, and that he was much happier talking about the good things that the community had done for him. That does not mean I'm saying he's a murderer, he's involved. I'm just noting that he found it very hard to talk about that. And I also said, I'm interested as to why they've shown no concern or worry about Samantha in 4 days after she went missing when they were giving that press conference. I found that unusual, but I was very fair to them. Also, do you really want me to delete every video where something may be wrong? Because then I get accused of hiding things. I'm not going to be right all the time. I get accused of just trying to make myself look good by deleting videos where I don't get things right, Johanna. I disagree entirely with your comment. Kitty, on the same subject, says really good points about how soon the press conference was. I hadn't thought about that. Also, with thinking something is being hidden, again, it doesn't mean he's hiding foul play. I agree with that entirely. There was something being hidden. Very often, the police will tell families to hold things back in case it hampers the search or hampers proof later on there. So that could be why something is being hidden. All I said was something is being hidden. It could be other information he doesn't want to disclose that's personal and private, perhaps. Kitty, spot on. And finally, let's look at missing Joslin Smith, missing in South Africa, and her mum and boyfriend have been arrested and charged in connection with her disappearance. Blanche says, when the boyfriend said, really, I have nothing to do with her disappearance, in my opinion, really states to me that he wants us to believe what he said. Blanche, exactly that. Truthful people, they just tell you the truth. They just say what is going on. It's only when the pressure ramps up, potentially when you're being deceptive, that you will try and convince us that you're telling the truth. Really, I had nothing to do with it, rather than just, I had nothing to do with it. It was really, and I'm being really honest, and I did not like that from the mother's boyfriend. Lots of comments on this video, like this one from Libby, who says, if you're going to comment on word choice, you must remember she is Afrikaans speaking, and English is a direct translation in her mind. Really good point, Libby. Really good point. And I do bear that in mind. If someone does not have English as their first language when I'm analysing their words, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt on a lot of word choice, because what I will look at more is not the word choice, but the concepts that people use. So while I may flag one or two words as being slightly odd, what I will be looking at is the concepts that they're using. So for example, for the mother, Kelly, her concept was herself all the time. Her priority was herself, how she was and what she was doing. And she talked very little in that statement about Joslin. She had no concern for Joslin at all. It was a concern with herself, Libby. So yes, you must remember that if you're analysing someone where English is not their first language, but that doesn't mean you can't analyse them. You can still look at the concepts and the phrasing and the thoughts that they are using to generate their words. Monkey Tales Books. I'm not sure that I agree with this assessment. It's too focused on incorrect English. Remember, these are Afrikaans-speaking people. English is not their first language. Also, they are obviously not well educated. Such people often confuse past and present tenses. So let's break this one down. I'm not sure I agree with this assessment. That's your fair point. I'm not asking you to agree with me, and I'm fine with people that don't agree with me. It is too focused on incorrect English. That's not what I do at all. In fact, I focus on correct use of English, and I look at why do people choose the words that they use. Why have they gone to those words rather than, I don't talk about incorrect English ever. I don't look down on someone for using incorrect English. Remember, these are Afrikaans speaking people. We've dealt with that already. English is not their first language. And also, they are obviously not well educated. Your education has very little on the words that you use. Well-educated people may use longer words or more complex sentence structures, but the basic words that we use, we don't use that many words in real life. You know, we tend to keep things simple. So the education doesn't really come into it. Such people often confuse past and present tenses. That does seem a bit condescending, Monkey Tail, but also, do you have any data to back that up? Do you have any data that people who are not well educated confuse past and present tenses? I don't believe you do, because I don't think that exists. But that's not what I do. I don't just look at someone's tense use and go, oh, they must be lying. I look and see he's describing something in the present tense that happened in the past. But does he use past tense elsewhere? Well, let's look at what he said. He said, it was the afternoon, so that's past tense. I see her the last time when she tells me she's going to play with a friend. So that is present tense. I see her the last time she tells me that she's going to play with a friend. And then everything else he gives is in the past tense. I saw her the last time, and that's it. I'm really honest. And then he's asked about the time they got concerned. On 6 with the mother was with me. This is all past tense. From the mother come home, the mother was with me until 6 o'clock. Then we was getting concerned for her, and we started looking, and we didn't find her, and then we called the police. So that is almost all past tense. So the only part that he uses present tense is when he's talking about his last interaction with Joslin, and that was very interesting to me. I'm not saying that makes him a murderer or a child killer or anything like that. What I'm saying is, why is he using the present tense only in that part of what he says? Another comment from Farah Jade, who says, I'm only 3 minutes into it. I do hope you watched all of it, Farah. Mum is all about herself so far. She was. It was one of the biggest things that stood out for me looking at Joslin Smith, was how concerned with herself that the mother was. And then one last question from Justine Kaj. Can you make a video about the words people use versus their personality? And now, that's not what I normally do, and that would take me quite some time to put together. The one tip I would give you is just look at the words that people repeat, or the concepts that people repeat, and that will tell you a lot about what is important to that person, and that might be psychologically, or it might be just what is a priority to them at the moment. But if you look at the words and concepts that people repeat, you will learn a lot about them. I will think about a video about the words people use versus their personality, but let me recommend a couple of good books that deal with that subject. One is called The Secret Life of Pronouns by James Pennebaker, which is a really in-depth scientific study, but written in a very accessible way, which really looks at the words people use and what we can tell about the person from the words that they use. That's The Secret Life of Pronouns by James Pennebaker. And another great book is 6 Minute X-Ray by Chase Hughes. Now, that deals with a lot of human behaviour, but there are lots of sections in there that take a deep dive into the words that people use, how people use words, and what that reveals about their personality. So that's 6 Minute X-Ray by Chase Hughes. Thank you so much for all your comments. If you've got any more, you can leave them here on this platform if you can, or you can get in touch on social media. If you subscribe or follow, you will get more content like this and like all the episodes we've mentioned when they land. And don't forget to press the like, because that really helps us get out to more people, and share with anyone you want. And if you want more, go to neveratruerword.com. More podcasts, more videos. You can sign up for the newsletter and get in touch on the socials as well. And we'll see you again soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.